Let's now look at a typical workflow of dbt Cloud. So what you'll usually do, obviously you're connected to your branch, you'll get some sort of work that you're doing, and you're likely going to create a new branch. So you want to make sure you're on your main branch, whatever the main master, whatever you're calling it, and create a new branch. Let's call this dbt Cloud branch just for example. And we can see it switched us to this branch, and think of this again, very similar to the command line where we created a branch and we started working locally. That's kind of where we're at. Now, when we look at this here, we can see we have all of our project. It's all here. And if we open up any of this here, it's showing this to us here. So it's bringing it in as in this editor right here. We can preview the data. Okay, so because we have our packages here, we need to run dbt deps to get our dbt Cloud environments up to speed. And you can see now there's a green checkbox. So the interface is pretty nice. So instead of just working with a typical terminal, you get some colors, you get some stuff here. Down here in the logs, there's a summary, which is more like it sounds like a summary, as well as detailed, which is really low level logs of what's going on. If you need to track things, you could see them here. Now down here, we could see this is all ready before we had that red compilation error. So let's try this again. Let's do a preview. And what this will do is compile behind the scenes, it's compiling it and running your code against the database. It has all that information here and it returns it to you right here. So you can see it right away without ever leaving the tool. Because oftentimes in the command line, you're doing stuff in code in Visual Studio, and then you have to hop to Snowflake to query it and see the results. Here, you can do it all in one place. You can also compile, and compile will do what it sounds like. It's going to change these to your fully qualified name. So you could copy and paste this into Snowflake if you wanted. And then here, lastly, is a very cool, relatively new feature at the time of this recording, which is lineage. And what this is going to do is create that lineage graph for you right here. So you don't have to create your docs and generate and all that stuff. It's right here. And you can open this up and actually do whatever you want here and look at everything if you wanted real quickly from the cloud environment without ever having to open up that website. Really cool feature. Let's make a change here. Let's say we're adding a new column, hello world as test. We're creating a new column called test. What we can do is save. And typically what you'll do is preview it to make sure, okay, this is running, there's nothing wrong with my code. So you can preview it and take a look that, okay, this was added right here. You could download the results as a CSV if you wanted. And now to actually run it and deploy it, you could do that right here as well. We could do a dbt run and run the same select statement. Very similar to what we would have done locally, but now we have this interface. We can see all this information. We can look at the logs, and it breaks it up a little bit differently as compared to seeing it all together in the command line, but we can see it was successful. We can look at details and get very granular here. And then each model is broken up as well. So if you had a bunch of models, each would get their own drop-down section, and we can see the details, and it shows you the query that it ran, which is really nice for troubleshooting. If something breaks, you can go through and see, okay, what did we actually run here? So now we've made a change. How do we move this to GitHub? How do we get that change here? And it's no different than local. We're using the same Git process, and we select Git. So let's add a commit message, adding test column. Usually you'd write something a little more useful, but All right, now that's committed. So we have it committed to our branch. And right now, if we go to our GitHub project, we see this is not yet here. So it's really only in the context of dbt Cloud currently. But what we can do, which is pretty cool, is open a pull request directly from here. We can click this. It'll open up our GitHub because it's all integrated and get us ready to go with a pull request. We can see it's comparing the changes, and we can say create pull request. And now we're right back in that workflow. So create pull request. Here we are. And that should kick off our action, which it does. We can see this is running. And now we're moving. Now we're in this workflow. We're building and creating in dbt Cloud, connected with GitHub, which kicked off an action, and that's going to test our logic to make sure it's all good. We can see it's running, and we could always check this out. And we know this drill, it's all going to go through and and run that. Let's assume this ran well, it all checks out, and we merge it. Confirm merge. So now this change was merged to our main branch, and we're back in dbt Cloud. Remember, we're not on that branch, and there could be other developers working on different things. How do we get the changes here just like we did locally? Well, what you would do is check out your Git branch, go to main, and because it's integrated, dbt Cloud will realize that there's a change between what you have and what's up there. And you get this orange button that says pull change from remote. So if we click on the model from this one here, we can see it's not here, but we say pull changes from remote. And now it brought it in because it grabbed that latest version, and we're off to the races. And one last thing I'll say here is you can refresh your Git state if something's not working right. Let me just create a new branch real quick to show you something else real quick. Again, if you had issues here, maybe it was a little out of sync, you can refresh your Git state and it'll go through and reconnect. Let's say you made a change and you saved it, and then you realize, oh wait, I don't really want that anymore. I don't want to commit it. What do I do? You can click revert, and essentially that's going to get rid of any uncommitted change and get you back to where you were before that latest commit. One last thing here to point out is that this has a lot of functionality similar to Visual Studio Code in the sense, or other editors in the sense that you can add certain features here. So you can right click and there's a full command palette. Maybe you wanted to fold you have a ton of CTEs, you can fold them all and do something like that. You can transform everything to uppercase, whatever you want. There's a lot of different things you can do here, which are really helpful, just like a normal editor would have. And then to edit anything here, you can click the ellipses, edit, rename, new file, new folder, etc. That's the typical workflow you'll see with dbt Cloud. I think it helps coming from the command line first because it helps you appreciate what's happening here and how everything works together.